the days we don't do it, they seem to be just a little bit more squirrely, a little bit less happy, I guess. So I think that's really important. And the one other nutrition piece that I really wanted to touch on was using this time, if you are someone who's finding yourself with a little bit extra free time, maybe you don't have sporting events every night like we used to and now don't, or you just have a little extra time working from home, is to use this time to really try some new recipes. So, grocery options are a little limited, which I know Mariah will touch on, but you might be trying to stretch things in your pantry a little bit more. So there's tons of great search features out there, whether it's Pinterest or just Google, to search, sweet potato, black bean, sausage recipe. And, you have those couple things in your cupboard, search and see what comes up. Try some new things that you may not have had time to do before. I know I just baked my first loaf of homemade bread, which I know is kind of all the rage right now. Went a little better than I thought it was going to, so that was really fun. But this is also a really good thing for kids. Cooking, I know I've seen a couple of homeschool people posting that, cooking is one of the best ways to do science, to do math, getting your kids involved with that. I know my kids have loved, baking some new things that we don't normally get time to bake, or helping with dinners. So it can be a really good learning experience, along with allowing yourself to have a little something extra to do, or learning, trying some new things that you might not, normally get a chance to do.
Allison, I want to ask you a question, and also I want to encourage people to send in questions through the text at the bottom. We'll be reading those and try to filter those through. But one question I had is about managing time, because you're still doing your job at Eastern, and time seems to be changed with this because we don't have the markers of time. Could you talk about how to manage time and what you're doing to do that?
Yeah, I know one thing that's been really helpful for me and a couple other people that I've talked to is really kind of trying to plan out my day more than I normally would. And, but then at the same time, also allowing for some flexibility. Obviously, kids don't always follow a perfect schedule, but, it's actually funny. I bought my first really intense planner with room for goals for each day and each week, and tons of stickers to make this nice, pretty scheduled calendar in late February, right before all of this happened. So I spent a couple hours going through and putting in all my, events for the next couple months, obviously feeling like that was a little bit of a waste of time at this point. But I'm trying to use that in the same way of, okay, here's a couple of house projects I want to get done today. Here's a couple of work projects I want to get done today. And really that has helped me to break it into smaller chunks. So I know the one thing I've struggled with being home is, so many things. Oh, I wanted to clean this door off. I want to wash the windows. I want to do all my laundry, and, but I also still have to work and I have to take care of the kids. So trying to kind of break out one additional task a day to work on has helped me to kind of maintain that schedule. And, just trying to kind of follow a semi-regular plan has been really helpful.
How many out there are grandparents? If people can raise their hand. Any grandparents in the room? Few. Okay, maybe you could speak. I know you've got 2 kids and several grandparents for them. So how can they be best helpful? It's tough on grandparents not being able to see the kids. They want to help out, but also don't want to be a burden. What do you find useful? And you have like 5 and 7-year-old kids or something like
close,
that?
8 and 4. So yep, 8 and 4. And yeah, we have a lot of grandparents still around, thank goodness. This has been really hard on all of us. Kids,
great grandparents, I think, as I recall.
Yep,
right?
we got a couple great grandparents too. So technology is amazing. Obviously, we've been really lucky to be able to do some Facebook Messenger video chats with the grandparents. I know my mother-in-law called the other day and read the kids a book through Facebook Messenger, and that's something that they've really enjoyed doing. My mom has plans to play cribbage with my son over video chat. So trying to find some ways. Kids are missing out on the connection too. Most of them, if they've been in school, they're used to being around their friends and teachers and a bunch of other adults that are important in their life that they are used to seeing every day, and they might not quite be able to explain how much missing out on that has affected them. I know my 4-year-old has been, you know, a little moodier lately than she normally is. She's normally a pretty even keel. And I have to believe that a lot of that is she's not seeing her friends and she's not seeing her teachers, and she can't really make that connection. So, you know, we've tried to, they actually have a Facebook Messenger Kids now, which is, it has just kind of exploded in the last little bit. We've had grandparents connected to my son with that for a while. It's really nice because the parents have to approve anyone they add, so they can't just go through and add random friends. And he now has a group with his baseball team that is now not getting together. So he'll do little group chats with a bunch of the 8-year-old baseball boys in a group chat. And, you know, we still are monitoring that and limiting it, but it allows him to have that connection. We've done some letter writing. So finding ways to kind of still be connected, taking some pictures to send to, you know, grandparents and family members. So finding ways to still kind of get that connection.
Reading a story is a good one that you would recommend, that reading a story to your kids, to your grandkids through the Facebook Messenger. Very good. I got a comment. Is Rick Reed out there? Rick, can you unmute yourself? Rick has a comment that his wife is a personal chef.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what Melissa's doing?
What's that?
You want to talk about what Melissa is doing?
Yeah, she posted some things on Facebook. She's the personal chef for a place called the Ann Arbor Club, and she posted some really easy. She calls them Hobo Meals. Basically, you put them in tin foil. Okay. You can take a variety of meats, and maybe you guys have heard of this, but I gotta say they were delicious. She cooked them on the grill. Some were just with sausage, and some were just vegetarian. So if you got some vegetables that are maybe sitting in the back of the crisper and you want to use them up, you just wrap them in foil. I'll have to find out how she prepared the actual juice that they were simmering in. But I had
What's her name, Rick? How do you find her?
Oh, Melissa Reed. I'll find out how we could post them more widely. They're really simple. You guys heard of the idea of a hobo meal? You take a tin foil pouch, put it on the grill. So nothing novel here, just really easy and quick, and then you can make several in advance. So I'll see how we can share that out, Rob.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it out to everybody. I'm going to put resources together and send everybody an email. I'm going to switch over. Thank you for starting us out. And Allison, we're going to move on to Steve Angerman. Steve, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, Steve is going to talk about fitness a little bit. He and Gavin Gardner both talk about fitness. Gavin is waiting online also. Steve, you want to start us out, give just a minute or so of background, and then talk about some things that people could be doing to stay.
Sure. You know, and I was raised on Hobo Meals, so it worked out good. So my name's Steve Angerman, and I was one of the co-founders of Running Fit, and I'm sure some of you have probably purchased some shoes from us over the years. And but besides being a retail store, one of our philosophies was to really engage people in running and fitness through training programs, both for beginner and recreational runners to experienced runners that were training for marathons and different events. So we had a lot of programs. We did a lot of these things before Zoom existed. You know, it was all, of course, face-to-face. But that's what I spent a good 30 years of my life doing. I have been a runner for almost 50 years. And what I wanted to talk about today was just share with you some of the benefits of incorporating some running and walking and aerobic physical activity during this time of home shelter, because you know, one, just the stir craziness of being inside. So I think it's really important that we get out and be part of the nature and environment that we have. And it's the other thing I like about of this idea is it's the idea of control, because this has been a major disruption in our country and in the entire world. And when you have a disruption like that, one of that creates some fear and anxiety. We feel overwhelmed. And one of the things that bugs me is not having control over sort of my personal environment. But running, walking, physical activities, those we can still have control of. So I think that's why it's really important to incorporate that in your day. And as I was listening to Allison, there were many points that she was making that I could just parlay those right over to having a running program. The idea of having a schedule. So one of the things, if you're going to run or you're going to just get out and walk, just to get out and move, is a routine, is finding when it fits best in your life right now. And I know right now of the 40 some people that are listening, we're coming from a lot of different places. So here, like Allison, she's one where all of a sudden she's wearing this extra hat of having to be a teacher at home and having to learn new ways to communicate with work, while there might be others that have excess time because they're not working right now or they're limited in their working. Again, some of our people here are also all of a sudden literally all alone. So people are coming from different aspects. So you have to see how it's going to fit in your life. She talked about this is a great time to look at some new recipes, but it's also a great time to look at some new fitness recipes in your life, trying the things that you like. If you've never run, this might be a time to kind of poke around and see what that's like. You can go from walking to running, very easy. I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. And what we're all sort of stressing here today, and this idea of taking care of ourselves, is I think 3 kind of pillars. And that's the physical fitness, being active, not just getting caught up in thinking that we're having to be sedentary and sit and be on screens all day. 2 are, our emotional wellness. Rob's going to talk a little bit about meditating, I know at one point. And then also our health, our nutrition and sleep. You combine all those things, and that's what's going to help us get through this and come out in a better state and be in a place of an increased self-awareness. Basically, it's, the old adage of taking care of mind, body, soul. So as far as, my pitch on getting everybody out and getting some steps, again, I think the first thing you have to do is find the time of when you're going to do it. So if you're one of those people that has a busy schedule, you really have to sit down and make some goals. And I think the first goals we want to make are goals based around frequency. So we're not trying to win the Dexter Ann Arbor run here. You're just trying to find out, when can I get out and how often? So looking at that, Allison mentioned a journal. A good way to plan is to use some sort of a calendar or a journal, one to keep track of what you're doing each day, and then second to use as a planner of when you can do that. So when I said frequency, I think that's a great thing to look at, is how often am I going to be able to get out? There's people that are getting out and walking in twice a day now, people that have extra time. So I think that's a real key thing. Another one is, as you're getting started, is you have these plans, and as I use the word disruption. So there's still more disruptions that happen. So if you miss a time when you're going to get out, don't throw in the towel, don't give up, just, scratch that off and move on to the next day. And likewise, if you plan to get out for 30 minutes, but time only allows for 10 is better than 0. It's always better to get out and just, go around the block or something than to skip it all together. The other thing
I got a question. I was ready to go yesterday, and it started to snow. Can you use snowshoes or?
Well, there's a segue. Yeah, we sell snowshoes at Running Fit. But yes, so you do have to, when I talk about planning, I also kind of look at the weather. So to see what the weather is going to be like, during the week for the other activities, because besides being a runner, I have been of an aged senior runner these days. My running is 3 times a week, and that's because of knee surgery and old body and such. So I incorporate swimming and cycling and kayaking, yoga, so other activities. Some people call them cross training. I call them, things you do when you're a hurt runner. But one of the things that I have picked up in during this home time shelter is more walking, because I can't run. every single day, but I can walk every day. And so one of the things that Allison talked about exploring new recipes, I explored walking first thing every morning. So that was kind of new to me because my running was being semi-retired, something that worked better midday. So now the first thing I do is I get up as I get out and take a walk. Some mornings it's quarter mile, half mile. Other days it could be 2.5 miles. Some days it's a stroll. Some days it's a more of a brisk pace where I'm actually kind of work up a sweat by the time I'm done. So I think that's that was an important thing that I picked up, and I scheduled it, and I said, I'm going to start my day. So if things get haywired through the rest of the day, I know that I got that one time out there for myself. So I think that's an important thing. The other thing when I talk about be creative and busy people is, and I see more and more people out walking and running through the neighborhoods and on trails and things than I ever have before. And I think that's great. And I think we also need to be creative. So if you get in a bind where it's the other adult in the house's time to do some work and you need some quiet time and you're in charge of kids and you had this time to be alone and go out and do your walk, your run, take them with you. You know, can they ride along on their bike? Can you all just walk together? Maybe you tell some stories while you're walking. You do the scavenger hunts. I'm sure that Gavin's going to share some things that he does as a father with his kids with exercise too. So
we're going to switch over. That's a good transition. So we're going to bring on Gavin Gardner, who's a personal trainer. Gavin.
Hey. Good morning.
Gavin's going to talk about personal training he does and things that you could do to stay fit at home besides the running and the walking. So go ahead, Gavin. You want to introduce yourself and talk about what you do? And by the way,
Yes.
I still want to encourage people to send in questions for the speakers. So we have a text stream going, and we're going to refer on to those. So Gavin, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Gavin. Like Rob said, I'm a personal trainer, serve in the Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area. And so I do in-home training as well as group and corporate wellness. And obviously, these hard times, it has forced me to go to virtual training. So I do a lot of my sessions just like we are now. And, some people have more equipment than others. So it's kind of forced me to really be creative with people. But, just a few things to do while you're at home. So the best equipment that you could have, especially if you have a lack of equipment, is your body, right? So a big one for core is planks. So planks is a really good one. You can do push-ups, body weight squats, lunges, and as far as if you need an apparatus, you can grab some cans, some just canned food right out of the kitchen, water bottles, anything you can find that has a little weight to it around the house, and get going. So another good way to get some work in is yoga, right? And a lot of times, if you go on to YouTube, you can find some really good yoga instructors. I like to do yoga. There's a channel that I use called Yoga with Adrian. And
I'm sorry,
Yoga with Adrian. Yeah, Yoga with Adrian. And the awesome thing about it is my kids really enjoy it. So I grab a few mats and we lay them out in the living room, and we all do yoga together. But knowing how to, another good thing is really knowing how to modify. So you might think like, oh, push-ups will get old, but there are a lot of ways that you can modify push-ups. So building muscle and doing things like that is about loading, being able to load your muscle in different ways. So you can do increase your time of attention, right? So that means you're going to do them a little bit slower. You can do them a little bit faster. If you have kids, a big thing you can do is you can put your kids on your back. That's a fun thing. The kids love that one. You could also use your kids. You can do curls with your kids. You can do tricep extensions, and they love all of those. They love all of those things.
Now you don't have teenagers, I hope, Gavin.
No teenagers. No teenagers. I have a 2 and a 5-year-old.
Okay, that's good.
one of the things I like to do with my kids is something called rocket ship, where I squat all the way down and I throw them up, which is a great exercise. It's actually a full body exercise. It gets your core and your legs and your butt and everything involved. They love it. I love it. I get my work in, and it works out really well. But just to piggyback a little bit off of what Steve said about walking and running. So walking is a really big one. I mean, because at the end of the day, any movement that you can get in is just going to work into your favor. Like, so even if that's all you can do is walk, it's going to work into your favor. And there are different ways, like Steve mentioned, that you can modify walking. So you can go, you can take different trails, right? So you can see some may have an incline, more of an incline. You can walk a little bit faster. You can use your arms more, and that's going to help really get a sweat going. And in terms of running, if you have small children, a jogging stroller is a lifesaver.
I got a comment from a question, and maybe other people can answer that. But the governor's new ruling about going out, I think it does not include parks. I think that, am I correct on that? That people can still go to parks? They're not excluded from the ruling. Does anybody have a different?
Rob, I think you're right.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rob, I think you're right.
Okay, all right. So yeah, the question was from Zhu, and it was like, can we walk, run in the parks? Yes, we can. And I guess you say if you're driving to them, it's okay. So that's good to know. Gavin, you also talked about your kids taking them out and trying to include them in your other activities during the day. I mean, how do you manage with trying to do your work, and you got a 2 and a 5-year-old, and your wife works? So how do you manage all that?
Well, it's tough.
Okay, that's a good answer to start.
It's definitely tough, but the biggest thing is just like, having that connection with your kids and just making everything fun, and just trying your best to include them, and not just like do things and have them tag along. Yeah, if that makes sense. So the biggest thing is just trying to just include them. I mean, my son right now is like loving to ride his bike, right? So it's just like, so a big thing is just like going on walks with him riding his bike. My daughter also is really good with riding her bike at 2. So we do a lot of bike. Yeah, we do a lot. She has training wheels. She's not a superhero, but yeah, I mean, it's really good. Just to incorporate them, with anything that you're doing.
I'm going to go back to Allison for a question, because Allison, you found a dirt bike trail for kids. Where is that?
Yeah, so I live in Canton, and there was, in the lower River Rouge trails, there's a little dirt bike course. It's just a little circle. It's got some little hills. And so my daughter just got off her training wheels, and my son has a mountain bike now. And so we took them there, and they can just go in circles on this little course, and they really enjoyed it.
Okay. I also want to encourage people to use poles, like ski poles, which are available through Amazon for like under, about $50 or so, even $30. But that, I have trouble walking on trails, and those really help me to stay from tripping if I hit a root or anything like that. I have foot drop. So, and it also encourages people to exercise harder if you do have the poles, because it's a better workout. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. There is a little dirt bike trail like that for kids. It's down at the by where the rowing is on Main Street.
Okay.
Allmendinger's, no, not Allmendinger, Vandermeer Park.
Okay, right.
So
we're going to put all these resources on an email to everybody, including the YouTube channels. And I know there's a lot of ideas. Another trainer there. Is Hermelinda there? Hi, Hermelinda. You want to unmute and say a little bit about your training? You're also a trainer, right?
Okay, so yes, I'm a certified health coach, but I'm also going to be doing personal training here too soon. And one of the things I would say is people underestimate time and opportunity. I think you have to kind of listen to your body, and when you see an opportunity or you feel like, wow, I'm feeling really stressed, I should take 5 minutes and just You can do breathing exercises. You can do yoga in 5 minutes. So I think we have to just capitalize on the opportunities. And when we know we need something, take that time and give your body and mind what it needs.
Okay, great. We're going to go next to Mariah. Mariah, are you there?
Hi.
Hi, Mariah Lewis. You must say a little bit about yourself, and maybe you could join in on the conversation here.
Yeah, so I'm Mariah Lewis. I own a local business here in town offering mostly nutrition counseling and some other related resources for clients with eating disorders, and also doing some non-diet weight management as well. And I actually, that kind of Melinda's point segued perfectly into one of my points that I wanted to talk about today. And that's kind of capitalizing on that time, but also, like she said, is kind of listening to your body during this time too. I've been hearing from a lot of my clients that they're extra stressed or feeling extra anxiety right now for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of information coming in. Our schedules have been completely flipped upside down and completely new to us. And so taking that time to listen to your body and having a little self-compassion and being kind to yourself during this time when you're thinking about especially your health related goals. So things like exercise, things like your diet, giving yourself a little wiggle room and listening to your body, and the fact that if you are feeling extra stressed, it's okay if you aren't sticking to your exact schedule, and finding ways that you can still make healthy choices for yourself, and listening to your body, and paying attention to some of those cues, and maybe modifying those things if you need. And so I think that's a really important point that Melinda alluded to. Other things that I wanted to talk about is I'm getting a lot of questions from my clients about how to eat during this time. I'm getting a lot of questions about kind of boosting your immune system and making sure you're getting the right foods in. And really, I would just say it kind of goes back to the old rules of making sure you're eating a balanced diet. And so one of the things with eating a balanced diet is making sure that you're getting enough fruits and vegetables in. I know during this time, it's been really hard to kind of stock up on perishable items because a lot of us are trying to reduce the trips to the grocery store. So if you can, especially for fruits and vegetables, trying to get things like frozen fruit, frozen vegetables, if they're still in stock. If you can't, trying to get some canned fruits and vegetables. That is a good alternative to make sure you're getting some of those in at meal times. But also not being afraid to take some of the perishable items, like the fresh produce, and being able to freeze some of that stuff as well. So there's kind of two methods to freezing that stuff that is pretty quick and easy and just involves you chopping it up. The quick and easy method is just to kind of throw it in a freezable bag in the fridge, and that should last for about a month in the fridge. I'm sorry, in the freezer, not the fridge. Should last in the freezer for about a month. But you can also do the blanching method as well to take some of that fresh produce, because I know the fresh produce has been pretty much in stock, but a lot of the frozen stuff is getting pretty low, and the canned stuff as well. So not being afraid to take that fresh produce as well.
Can I interrupt just for a second?
Yeah.
And that is, I want to plug Argus Farm Stop in Ann Arbor, which has moved into a lot of delivery, and you can pick things up, and it also supports our local farmers. So farmers don't have the outlets that they did. So they have a lot of fresh stuff. I think Bob Marion had discovered kohlrabi, or somebody did the other day. And that was, I forget who it was, but anyway, there's a lot of good stuff. And so I think that, trying to find the local sources are really good. I think, do you know anything about the direct food from farmers? I forget what they call that program, but
CSAs, Community
CSAs,
yeah. Agriculture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to add about that, Dunry? Do you know about how to get into it?
I mean, I think local farm shares are doing stuff. Tantre Farm has been doing a CSA every Saturday, and they have it through their website and through their email list. I imagine other farms are also doing that. We can only take a box of fresh vegetables once every 2 weeks because we don't have enough people in the house to eat it. But they have some stuff that's been in from hoop houses and other stuff that's been in storage, right? So carrots and potatoes.
Tantre Farm that you know of that does that.
Mm-hmm. Tantre Farm, yep.
All right, let's go back to Mariah. Mariah, do you have any tips on rest and sleep, and how important is that during this time to really, people are finding their sleep is off. So what can they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to kind of a couple of points that everybody's been making about really trying to set that schedule for yourself and really trying to kind of play it out as what life would normally look like. Like, so what time are you normally going to bed? What time are you normally waking up? And trying to stick to that schedule, because time and time again, research has shown as sticking on kind of a similar wake up time and a similar sleep time, it really helps with restfulness, helps with rejuvenation, helps with your overall health and your immune system. So trying to keep with that regular schedule as much as possible with your sleep. And I know kind of shutting down electronics can also be helpful. I know, especially with a lot of the increased stress and anxiety that is going on during this time, sometimes it can be more difficult to fall asleep. So making sure you're trying to kind of shut down the electronic use at least like an hour or two before bedtime. Maybe try to switch to something like reading a book or talking with somebody in the household, doing that kind of a thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I wanted to talk a little bit about meditation, but I want to open it up a little bit to the audience too. Haley Mullins, are you out there?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Haley. No photo.
I'll throw my video on. It's early, so I have to admit I just rolled out of bed. And I have background on.
Tell us where you are, Haley.
I am in Boise, Idaho.
Okay, so you might be our farthest Leaders Connect entry. You got a little bit different world out there where it's all about exercise, right?
Yeah, it's pretty active out here. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of a background, I think.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Anyway, Haley, you said that. What was your comment about Frog Holler?
Yeah, so when I lived in Ann Arbor, Frog Holler also had a really great CSA. And what I loved about the CSA option for me was you basically get this box of veggies, and so you're forced just to cook whatever you have. And so I know I discovered a lot of new vegetables. Celery root was a big one. And so I loved the concept that it just gave me a box that I had to cook every week. And I think now this is really helpful. I've actually been looking for a CSA in Boise for the same thing, because it just forces you to cook what you have.
Okay. I'm also going to switch over to Bob Mary. And Bob, you had a resource, but I also I thought your idea of the silver lining was beautiful. I used that last night at dinner, and it was really a great conversation. Could you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Rob. And thanks to
all.
all
yourself, if you don't mind. So yeah.
I think I'm unmuted. Can people hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's sometimes a temptation to think about all the challenges and all the heartache and the misery that comes with something like a viral pandemic, but almost invariably, any situation that you're in where you have to radically change what you're doing, if you will, against your will, it usually almost invariably presents opportunities as well as challenges. And so one of my coping mechanisms through this has been to keep a small list of things, I would say they're things both trivial as well as profound, that I could look back on and say, well, if this pandemic had not happened, I likely would not have fill in the blank, had some experience, tried something new, been creative in some way, kind of took a chance maybe that I wouldn't have taken otherwise. And I have found that seems to be really working for me and my own, where my head is at in this. And I have also found that as I have shared it with more and more people, people seem to really resonate with this. And I have found there's almost nobody who can't identify some silver lining to the situation that we're in. And I just think it's really helpful. And it's also really interesting to talk to people and hear about what their particular silver linings have been. Rob alluded to a comment I made yesterday and it actually had to do with, I put on the chat there that my wife and I have used Lake Divide Farm. It's two farmers, a couple, Helen and Jim, and they're part of the localharvest.org website, so you can find them there. And so we ended up with our first batch of produce from them, and there was this thing in there called a kohlrabi, which I had heard of, but I'd never seen one in real life, and I didn't know what to do with it. So we Googled it and we figured it out. And, you know, that's a very trivial thing, but I could have probably gone maybe the rest of my life without ever knowing anything about kohlrabi. So I learned something, and I got to have a really interesting and pleasant experience learning something new.
Well, I thought
obviously,
it might be fun with this group to think about having people want to share a silver lining. Maybe you could all think about, is there a silver lining in this for you, that you're doing something now that you wouldn't have done? One that came up at my dinner table last night, we're hosting my mother-in-law, Jean Carino, who's 97, will be 98 pretty soon. And she's living in a senior residence, but it's great to be able to have this weeks with her and learning more about her, playing cards and losing all the time to her. And she's sewn a bunch of masks. And so it's really been a delight to, that's a silver lining for me, is getting that extra time. Who knows, you know, how long we're going to have with her, but to be able to live with her for these weeks has been terrific. Anybody else want to share a silver lining?
I'll share, Rob.
All right.
I know the one thing that's been really great for us, I mean, we're just getting into youth sports. So, you know, both of my kids were in, you know, at least one sport. And I can't tell you the last time we've had 2 or 3 nights in a row where we didn't have to be somewhere. So to now be going on week 4 of no evening activities other than just, you know, maybe walking to the baseball field, you know, that's right across the street, and hitting some balls and going on family walks and playing games. I mean, I don't think have ever had this much time, and it's been really great to be able to, you know, spend that time with my kids and with my husband, and not just be running and going and having a million, you know, things to do. So
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Rob, I'll throw one out there.
I'm going to call on Deb Crone.
Yeah, hi. One of the things that I've appreciated is my kids are both home from college right now, and we've had a chance to go to Kensington Park and do some fairly long walks, and it's just been awesome to enjoy, you know, nature, enjoy getting out there. The other day we saw an albino deer, which was just phenomenal to see, but just really, I don't know, just kind of reconnecting with nature and things like that.
Fantastic. So. Yeah. Anybody else want to share that? Yeah. Here, Belinda.
Yeah, just to kind of tie in with what she said about people, I put out just an email message and just asked people, you know, how are they coping? How are they doing? And one of the things they said was they were reconnecting with their children, and then their adult children. They said, you know, typically they don't have time for them, but now they have a lot of time. So they've been doing that. I've been giving them ideas about things they can cook with their kids, you know, quick meals, and let them learn a new skill. So I think it's a prime time to try a new activity or learn a new skill that maybe you wouldn't have tried before if you didn't have a lot of time. So we need to also take advantage of a bad situation by doing these kind of things.
I want to call on Zulan. And Zulan, you said you have some masks to give away. You want to talk about that? Can you unmute?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning. Yes, I do. Yeah, I have about like 35 masks, and I would be glad to give away if you to whoever wants them. Yeah, so I'd be happy to give maybe one person 2 masks. Yeah, if you want them.
So can I put your email on the string, and we
yes.
People
yes, I can type my email right here.
Okay, great. How do you say your name? Did I say it right?
Yes, Shulan.
Shulan. Okay, great.
Yes.
And these are masks for like going outside.
Yeah, go outside. Just like a normal mask.
Yeah. Okay,
it's not
great.
N95. Yeah, just normal.
I also want to say that we're gonna people, if you could put in your private Mariah, I know you have a practice. If people want to contact you, you do phone consultations. Same thing, Allison, about food.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get my weight, down a little bit during this time. And actually, Deb Crone is ice cream. She has another business that's ice cream, and I'm eating way too much of that, Deb, to make any impact on my weight. But so if you could put your address, the same thing with Gavin. You do private work with the people could contact you and get a phone session. Is Sarah Berge out there? Sarah, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Sarah. Also, hi, Sarah. So Sarah and I Sarah's been coming into my basement via Zoom and doing half-hour training sessions. I have a TRX, which is this kind of bands, and so she's been. I woke up pretty sore this morning, Sarah, but thanks a lot. But it was a good workout. So Sarah, could you talk about what you're doing and what you're doing in home workouts?
Sure. I definitely would have to say that this pandemic has been a little bit of my silver lining of forcing me to go virtual as far as with some of my personal training clients and sessions. And I found that I think everyone might resonate that people are amazing in our adaptability. It's been a little while and people are adapting to working with technology in a way they never have before. Working out at home with using water bottles or using different things that you would never think you would ever want to try a workout with. So yeah, that's been great. And just some of my clients who've reached out, I've worked with them and kind of worked out. But I try to get people onto a routine of what works best for them, and kind of keeping in mind what might have worked before for you. It might not be working now because this is just something that's completely different. So being open to just trying different workouts and different styles has been really interesting and kind of fun for me, honestly, to get a little bit of a change of pace.
Sarah, could you also put your name on the text, and if people want to reach out for her? And it's nice that she's doing half-hour workouts, because like I could do 2 a week, and she has a set price for the 2, and it makes it economical for me to do it. She's also a trainer at Washington Community College and works a lot with people with I guess handicapping conditions, the conditions that make it harder. So I'm going to talk about meditation, but I know there's a lot of meditators out there, so I wanted to also have Dunry share and other people who do meditation. But I've been a meditator for I guess say about 50 years, and I've done different formats, but I wanted to just share a couple of very simple ones. The one that I like that I can actually demonstrate pretty quickly is actually breathing and saying a favorite prayer or poem. This morning is Good Friday. I don't know if there's any good Catholics out there that know a Catholic prayer. That's not my but let me just give you an example. Let's take this Serenity Prayer, which is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. We got a lot of those right now. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if I turn that into a meditation, I would memorize that. I have that memorized. And then I would just say each word on an out breath. So I'm going to demonstrate. You could all do this with me now if you want. So you say, God. And then you take an in breath. Grant. In breath. Me. Out breath. The. Serenity. To. So you get the idea. And I have 2 or 3 of those that I say regularly. And actually, just sitting there and doing the out breath, it's a good focus. And if you have something that's meaningful to you, if you're Jewish, it could be the Shema, it could be the Lord's Prayer if you're Catholic. I have a Buddhist poem that I've memorized from Thich Nhat Hanh that I say, and it's pretty long, so I use it to fall asleep. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, I start with this, and it's called, I can't think of it now because I'm not sleeping, but it's please call me by my true name. So so I just say the words to myself, and I rarely start and don't fall asleep before I get to the end. So that's another sleep and meditation practice. If I do it during the day, I don't fall asleep, but at night it helps me fall asleep. It's interesting, I can't remember it now, but it's a Thich Nhat Hanh poem, please call me by my true names. So anybody else have a meditation technique? Dunri, anything simple that you could advise people on?
I think for me, the most important thing about sitting for meditation is to be gentle with yourself and just accept what happens when you're there. So whatever it is, if you want to pick up a meditation practice, give yourself a small amount of time, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Sit there without your devices or distractions, and then forgive whatever happens when you're in that time. I've been told by a very wise teacher that whatever happens when you sit for meditation is meditation. So if you don't, go off and like circle the world and, like have a vision of the divine, and just sit there with your breath, that's enough.
If you're going to have a division of the divine, this is a good weekend for it. So.
Fair.
I wanted to add to that idea of just sit there, that one of the simplest techniques that I learned was Transcendental Meditation. And that's been around for at least over 50 years and very popular. But one form of that is, you have to get like a special mantra. Well, researcher Herbert Benson said, if you just use one word, whatever word you choose, for example, I use the word Om. And so the idea is when you meditate with Transcendental Meditation, you sit, as Dunri said, you give yourself 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, and you just, to yourself, say the word Om on each out breath. Om. And you can feel the nice, just try it. It's a nice vibration. Om. You can feel it in your body. And just focus on that out breath. And if you get distracted and you start thinking about the divine, or you start thinking about the devil or whatever it is, just go back to the word. So if you go off on a mind track, go back to your word Om or Shema or Amen or whatever it may be. Don't pick the word of your worst enemy. That's probably not a good term, but whatever is useful and calming for you. Anybody else have a technique that they could teach very simply to people that they follow?
I have one, Rob, that I use with some of my clients sometimes. It's the 5 senses. So just paying attention to something that you can see, something that you can smell, something that you can hear, something you can touch, and I'm missing one, something you can taste. So sometimes I use that with my clients. It's just it's a really quick meditation, but taking your time to really think about what it is that you're feeling with all of those 5 senses.
So you just can you walk us through that? I mean, how you go through you say first, what am I smelling now? And then you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you just go through, slowly walk through each of the 5 senses. Sometimes there might not be a taste one if you're not actively eating, but it can even be something as like the feel of your mouth or things like that. So walking through all 5 of those senses. Okay,
very good. And we again have a lot of resources on this list that we'll be sure to get to people. Any other? We can open it up here now for just general tips, conversations about any aspects of this. Fritz, did you have something?
Yeah, I'd been working with a client and challenged them.
Do you want to say who you are?
Oh, Fritz Seifert, executive coach. Rob and I are in the same business and have known each other a long time. Working with a client who needed to become more mindful. And I challenged them with some exercises, whether it be yoga, meditation, whatever. They found the app Calm, and they found it really made a huge difference to their life. And so I went out and got on it. And I have to say, I've been, like Rob, a long-time meditator. And I have to say that I found using the Calm app was actually very helpful. So I know Headspace is one that's out there also. And I think it's free for healthcare workers now. So anyway, just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have suggestions out there? My screen has gotten all weird here all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Does other people have the same problem, or?
Someone is sharing their screen. Someone with a Galaxy Note 10 is turned on screen sharing.
Okay, who's got a Galaxy 10? Somebody's screen sharing, and we're getting your feed up.
If you're sharing your screen, you should see a little red box at the top of your screen that says "Stop Screen Sharing," and that would be good to click on.
Okay.
And Rob, you can also change this feature by denying. You can control that by just having you, the only one, be permission to do that.
You know, Eric, I don't control people. I'm not. That's not my style, right?
Hey, Rob, this is Haley. I can jump in with something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Haley.
So I work for a company that does patient education content. And one of the things that we've created, and I will put a link in the chat, is a public facing resource about coronavirus. And so we write content that is written at like a fourth to sixth grade reading level. We do a lot of iconography. We've got some videos. We actually just came out with a children's, like, little short children's book on what coronavirus is and how you explain it to kids. So that's something that I will share with you guys. I found that with my family being Midwest, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so I think for me, with their mental health, a big thing has been helping them understand it in a way that makes sense to them and that's not scary. The CDC is a great source of information, but sometimes it can just be written at a reading level that's a little advanced. So I found that, like, helping kind of stop that misinformation has been really helpful for me and for my family.
All right, so could you share that with us, Haley?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I will put that in the chat right now.
Okay. I have also, I really am recommending the New York Times these days. It's got an amazing coverage of everything. And I have a subscription and it enables me to give some free, share that with people. So if anybody would like a New York Times digital subscription, email me and I'll be happy to include you on that, because when you have a subscription, it gives you the opportunity to share. So again, it's really valuable. My son is an editor, so and he's covering the coronavirus. So I know how hard they're working on trying to get things working well. And all right, so anybody else have anything to share? Any questions for the speakers?
I have one thing. I think the chat goes away in these Zoom meetings after the meeting is closed. So people, if there's good resources that you want from the chat, I believe you can save it down on your local computer. And I believe it's at the 3 dots right above that box to type message. There's 3 dots, that's more. And under that more link, the only thing that's there is save chat. So if you hit that, you can pull down the resources people have dropped into the chat, the contact info for the people like Gavin, who is wonderful. I work with Gavin. I'm going to put that plug in, and to save that down so that it's not lost as soon as this meeting is over.
I'm not following that. Can you do that so you go down to your bottom of the screen? And
so if you open the chat window, some people it might open up in a sidebar on the right. Some people it might pop up over the screen. And there's that box where you can type into it. It says type your message here.
Yeah.
At the upper right corner of that box, not the whole chat area, but just that little box where you type your comment, there is in my screen, there's a box with 3 dots in it. If you touch that, the only option in that menu is save chat.
Great. I hope that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Emily, I hope we got that too. So we'll also try to include this as a part of our email to all of you.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say, I believe the administrator of the meeting gets all the private chats that are sent between people on the meeting.
Okay.
So I wouldn't publish the whole thing without reading it.
All right, no
just secret. In case, we're talking smack to each other behind the scenes.
Hilarious Jimmy Fallon. There's a hilarious Jimmy Fallon and Kristen Wiig video going around where Kristen is cheated on her husband, and she actually broke isolation with, it's hilarious, but it turns out it's his brother that he doesn't know that exists. So it's,
oh no.
But if you have any of those, don't share them here.
Yeah, don't put them in the chat.
Yeah, and Deb Crown, I've got to figure out how to get all that good humor ice cream that you said that you sell Nathan's ice cream. I love it, so I got to figure out how you could ship me some. Any other resources people want to share? One other thing I want to say, we're going to be talking next week more about mental health. And so if anybody, I'm looking for some resources. I have a couple of therapists and doctors who are going to be talking about that, how to maintain your mental health. A couple of things I'd say is, one thing is, we don't know how long this is going to go on. I mean, it could be another few weeks, but it could be another few months. So I think it's important to have some long-term goals that you're working on. I mean, I'm working on a manuscript right now for a book that I had been co-writing with somebody about, with Mike Anleitner, and it's on emotional intelligence for engineers and other ridiculous ideas. But that's supposed to be a joke. But the idea is we're working on that, and it's going to take a couple of weeks or a couple of months to get it done. So having long-term goals, something that you can get to, even if you only could put a half an hour into it, is what can you do with this time that will be constructive? And also keeping journals, because this is going to be a historic time, and people will want to know how did people cope with this? It's going to be remembered like the Depression or almost like a war. So keep journals, because that's going to be very valuable. It's 9. Anybody want to last comments? Any from our speakers? Allison, Mariah, Gavin, Steve, thank you very much. We have, if people want to reach you, we know how to do that. And I would really encourage people to maybe do an in-house workout or get a tip on, do a consultation on your diet and figure out how to eat well. This is, again, those silver linings. And if you have other silver linings, send them in, because I think it'd be really interesting to publish. I might try to do a column about that. And it would be really interesting to know what your silver linings are. I'd like to hear from you about that. Well, thank you very much. I won't shake hands with anybody, but good to see you all. And be safe. Talk to you hopefully next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Rob.
Rob.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.